Hello, good morning, and welcome to the Mid-Morning Pack, the Legal Tuesday. Today, as usual, we are looking at legal matters, a program which is going to go all the way as we're going to dig deep on various issues. And last week and this week, we have been looking on the issue of land. And today, we are going to deliberately look at the process of acquiring land here in Kenya. And today we have our guest, Lillian Ekesa, who is together with us. If you have any question to our advocate today, you can do that via 23814 or WhatsApp number 0721105105, 0721105105 or 23814, my SMS number. And today we are asking you, what are some of the challenges that you may come across when you are buying land in Kenya? What are some of the challenges that you may come through, or maybe you have ever come through when you are acquiring land in Kenya? You can text us via 23814 or WhatsApp 0721105105. Today we have lined up various issues for you. We have the landmark ruling for you, and today's landmark ruling is regarding the issue of Ogiek land challenges, which was done by the East African Court. And also we have legal terminology, the inside law, and also profile in our program today. But to give us more details on our topic on the process of acquiring land in Kenya, we have our guest today. But before we look at our clip, which is going to give us an overview of what we are discussing today, just to introduce our guest, and then we are going to check on our clip today. Good morning, Lillian. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
You're doing fine?
Yes, I'm well.
Welcome to the Mid-Morning Pack.
Thank you.
Today we are going to look at the issue of acquiring land in Kenya. And because I know that you're going to have enough time to look at this,
yes.
It has been a challenge when it comes to acquiring land in Kenya. There are many challenges people come across. And as we continue, we have some guys on the ground who have picked up some vox pops to hear what people are saying, the challenges they have ever faced when they were acquiring land.
Yes.
And therefore, later on, we'll be going to that in details. But before we go there, I want to introduce a clip which is going to give us the foundation of what we are discussing today. So watch this.
Halo. Halo. Ni wewe boss. Tunataka aje? Eka ingine moja. Ikiwezekana. Naona hapa kwa sisi yangu hapo chini. Bila kuongeza hiyo eka ingine mbili. Ili sasa na ujue hapo pamekuwa kabisa. Kwa hivyo sasa uongeze hela na mimi nitakuongeza saa hizi ninakuja. Haya.
Baba John, ni shamba gani nimesikia mkisema ati hapo nyuma sinsi la ng'ombe? Ni shamba gani unamwambia?
Indo ici ciothe ngurite guku tutaramenya ni kuga atia. Wiciria nguraga nake unafikiri na nunuaga na nini?
Hata kama ni wewe umenunua hapa ni kwangu. Na ni kwangu na siendi mahali.
Hiyo TV yenye ninunua, uliuliza ilitoka wapi? Hiyo ng'ombe yenye nilileta hapa, uliuliza? Wewe unajua tu kukula mali inaingia, lakini uliza pesa inatoka wapi? Na mimi sikuagi na kazi. Unafikiri natoa pesa wapi?
Kazi yote inaendelea ni zile pesa zenye umekula.
Ushakula.
Utaniambia.
Kila siku unakula nyama.
Umekula. Wewe ndio umekula kwa sababu hukuniambia.
Bere hiyo ulikuwa unakula nyama.
TV, unakuja na kitu fulani, unakuja na kanyama. Nikikuja kwako, ulikuwa na hii shamba. Hii shamba tumenunua na wewe. Hakuna mahali ninaenda.
Kwani mali ni ya nani?
Hakuna shamba inauzwa hapa.
Mali ni ya mzee. Na mimi nitauza. Unajua unanipotezea wakati na pesa na chamba na pesa uchakula ya chamba. Utaona na utaendelea. Na siku tupi bado utaendelea kufanya maendeleo hapo.
Siendi na siendi ati itauzwa. Iuzwe nikiwa wapi? Kama niko uhai hakuna shamba inauzwa hapa. Nataka kuona mwenye ananunua. Kama sitamkatakata atanijua mimi ni nani. Atanijua. Shamba yangu atanijua. Hawanijui.
All right, and that is the way things are going. I don't know whether, Wakil, you have seen what is happening.
Yes.
You know, we have a challenge whereby a man wants to sell land, but the woman doesn't want this land to be bought.
Yes.
I don't know whether what they are doing is legal. Can a man sell his or her land, or a woman sell his or her land without involving the spouse?
The law is on that. The law on that, normally we consider there is a parcel of land which we consider as it's a matrimonial property.
Yes.
In this case, when we mean matrimonial property, it is that land that was acquired during the subsistence of the marriage, or when the couple married, they bought this property together.
Yes.
Also, the matrimonial property in this case might mean one of the parties bought the property, but they developed the property together. Probably they built a house on the property through their joint efforts. So in this case, in the event one party wants to transfer this parcel of land, they would need the consent of the other party to transfer the land.
And I'm thinking of a scenario whereby I have bought the land,
Yes.
which we are living together with my family.
Yes.
But again, through my efforts, I buy maybe 1 or 2 plots or a 1 acre land.
Yes.
And then I develop that land. And then times comes, I feel I need to dispose this land. Do I again need to go to my spouse to get maybe nod to sell that land?
The issue is in terms of the matrimonial property, the issue comes in if you bought this property before you married this person, or before you got married to this person, you developed it solely. That one now entirely it is your property.
All right.
But in the aspect they will have, maybe it's in terms of contribution, maybe there are other developments they made.
Yes.
But the ratio won't be 50-50 as usual. They'll just have a slight stake. But in the event you bought this property, developed it in the marriage, still this person gave their contribution either directly or indirectly.
Okay.
And they'll have to be considered in this
And a
case.
situation whereby you married and you had an inheritance land,
Yes.
and then you feel along the way you need to sell this land. Again, do you need to consult your spouse?
Now the case of, normally we call it, in law we call it beneficial interest. Yes, there is a property that has been acquired through inheritance. This is where maybe your father died, there was a marriage.
Yes.
Where the inheritance comes to becomes a shared property is also when if the other spouse developed it.
Okay.
So in terms of law, what we look at is the contribution and development the other spouse has done on the
So it
property.
varies.
Yes, it varies. Even if it's an inheritance and the other party has developed it, you will have to share.
I want to refer to the late Kibor case.
Yes.
The issue of inheritance and children.
Yes.
And we have a scenario whereby maybe we have the husband and the wife is deceased.
Yes.
And the children now learns that the dad want to sell the matrimonial land. Do they have a stake?
With the issue is so far the cases, the judgments we've been getting from court in terms of the nature of the property is, for instance, let's say this is a man. He has the man is this is his land, if I'm understanding correctly. This is his land. Normally, the children cannot inherit the land while the parent is still alive. But now, in the event, maybe it is the widow, I think it's an area of law we need to evaluate. In the event it is a widow who is still alive, the children still have a stake in the father's property.
And the most common scenarios is not the case of a woman disposing the land. It's mostly the men who will have disposing the land.
Yes.
But with women, it's a rare case. Maybe the husband is deceased and then the wife remains. It's very rare cases you find women disposing land without involving the family.
Yes.
All right? And maybe before we go into the details, when the issue of the family is there, maybe in a nutshell, although we are going to look at the process of buying land in Kenya, where does the spouse come in, or what should be done when you want to dispose your land and to involve your spouse? What exactly does the law say?
The law now, when you want to maybe sell land,
yes.
First of all, you need to consult with your spouse. And then in this case, the spouse will be required to execute a document known as the spousal consent, stating that he or she is aware that this land is being sold and they have given their consent to have the land sold. And we normally say don't leave it to chance. Even if you feel this property is not matrimonial property, just let the spouse sign that. It's an affidavit. It's in the form of an affidavit or a statutory declaration. So let the spouse swear the same and say they have no stake in the land.
Where does it come from, this consent letter?
Yes, it is just in the nature of when the land is being transferred, the spouse will sign that.
But where does it come from? From the court? From the Ministry of Lands? The
same is drawn by an advocate. When the advocate is preparing the transfer forms, it can be prepared both in during the signing of the sale agreement, and also during the transfer of land. And in this case, where it is in the case where there is a sale agreement, as advocates we normally advise let the spouse also sign the agreement. Let his or her name be captured in the agreement. They were present, they executed this agreement, they were aware the land is being sold. And in court cases, we've had cases where in the event the spouse was present during the signing of the sale agreement, during the negotiation, automatically they gave their consent. They didn't raise any issue, they were there. Even the aspect of even if it is a mother preparing tea, they gave their consent at that time. They were aware the land is being sold. So in this time it is implied by if they were present during the signing of the sale agreement and the spousal consent was not signed, they have given their consent.
Nice. Yeah. And where does the local administration come in? The chief, where does he come in?
The chief is necessary in terms of mostly agricultural land. That is where the Land Control Board consent is sought. Normally, after going the processes, we will go through them. But during, before the transfer is done, a party needs to obtain the Land Control Board consent, if it is agricultural land. So this is where now you will appear before the chief, and formally now they are called the county commissioners, the DCs, formerly the DCs. You will appear before them. They will ensure that this process was done legally and there was no fraud or illegal aspect in the transaction.
This mostly comes in when I'm buying land. That's when I'm going to face the land board.
Yes, the land control.
But when I have a land, I have matrimonial home, or maybe I have family land, I want to sell that land. Yes, you've talked about the spouse maybe signing the accent letter. But does the chief have a role in maybe proving something when I'm selling maybe matrimonial home or family land?
The chief comes in the case where, let's say in this case, the land is involved in terms of succession. But as legally, we advise parties who are buying land from a family, or from a family maybe where the owner of the land has passed away. Maybe it is their father or their mother who has passed away and left land, and now the beneficiaries are now seeking to sell this land. We normally advise any buyer, push the family to get a grant first. Don't rely on the chief's letter alone. That is where normally you find people saying the chief's letter. But don't rely, in as much as the chief will say these are the beneficiaries, they have given their consent to sell this land, don't rely on the chief's letter alone. You need to push the family to have a consent, to do a grant. Once they obtain these letters from court, the letters of administration, that is when now you execute a sale agreement with them.
And finally, what is your maybe a simple warning to anybody who is maybe buying or selling a matrimonial land?
The warning I would give is sometimes ask this person to show you the wife or the wives. In certain cases, they are wives.
Yes.
So normally ensure that if you feel this land is a matrimonial land, let this person bring the wife and interrogate the wife.
Oh.
Sometimes wives can be hired out here.
Oh, you can be hired too?
Yes, you can be. Sometimes.
Those situations, you have seen those cases?
Yes, we've seen those cases where it is another lady who is coming to execute the agreement. When you go to court, the land belonged to another wife.
It's very dangerous.
Yes, that is where normally now you bring this person, you interrogate, and also do due diligence locally and establish who is the wife of this person.
All right. Today we are talking about the process of acquiring land in Kenya, or process of buying land in Kenya. We are going to take one after the other so that you can be able to understand into details. If you want to get land in Kenya, either to buy or sell land, there is a process you must follow, maybe to avoid maybe con men or women somewhere. Therefore, stay tuned. But if you have a question to our advocate, Lillian Kesa, you can do that via our SMS number 23814 or 0721105105. And today we are asking you, what challenges have you ever experienced when you are buying or selling land anywhere? It is not necessarily you are a buyer. You can be a son and you saw your father selling land and you learned something. Or maybe you can be a neighbor. You saw there were some quarrels when they were selling land. Anything that you ever come across that may help us today to understand the challenges that we go through when we are selling land, you can text us today via 23814 or 0721105105. And today, Wakili, as I mentioned, last week we had this process. And the first process that we were just telling people was, the first one is to, when you are buying the land, is to identify the land first, and you go and see it. Why don't you just trust someone? And we are in an era of technology. You can be sent some photos, some videos of the land. You can do some little bit transactions via the email. Why necessary should you go to the ground?
Normally, we normally say it's more of an investigation aspect. When you go to the ground, you want also to see, do the people in the area know the owner of the land. Sometimes it can be represented to you via email, this land belongs to this person.
Yes.
But when you go to the ground, you are able to establish this land has these issues and these issues. This land belonged to a certain family. In some instances, even if you visit even a local hotel, you will even be told the original owner of this land. You can be able to establish, even you can be able to find out whether this land is really on sale. Yes. And then also the aspect of visiting the land gives you an opportunity also to identify. You are not buying maybe land that is riparian land, meaning it's beside a stream or a river and it can get flooded at any time.
Yes.
You can also look at the nature of the land. Maybe it's rocky and you've bought it online. You haven't identified. Maybe you wanted to do farming, but the land you're buying is totally different. So we normally advise parties, the first thing we ask a party is, have you visited the ground to establish this is really what you want? Yeah, and sometimes you can also find out that there are also cases involving this land which you were not aware of. Yeah.
And then after you visit the land and maybe you are satisfied, this is the land that you wanted, you are satisfied with everything, the other step that we looked at was to undertake search at the Ministry of Land or the county office's headquarters. And maybe for those who are listening to us, when we are talking about undertaking search at the ministry, what does it entail?
Undertaking the search is more of saying that you want to identify the the kind of land you buy, and we normally call it encumbrances on the land, and whether actually this land is registered. You also want to establish who is the owner of this land. You also want to establish the acreage of the land. Maybe the seller would have told you are buying 1 acre, but in the lands registry, the acreage is different.
Yes.
So you are able to establish that. At the same time, you are able to find out whether this person, maybe they might have taken a loan from the bank, they didn't inform you. That is what we call also an encumbrance on the land.
Okay.
They might have taken a charge or a loan, it's recorded in the lands office. There might be a caution. Somebody has placed a caution saying that I don't want this land sold. You will be able to know from conducting.
So you put caution at the land ministry?
Yes, at the land ministry. Yeah, so you are able to establish this land does not have anything that will hinder you from transferring it to yourself.
We want to go to the next process, but just to alert our viewer that as we continue, we are waiting to be given a signal that we shall be going live for our refreshing conference, which usually comes every week. It has started today, going all the way up to Friday. So once they are ready on the other side, we shall be told. Maybe Wakili, because I'm told they are ready there.
Yes.
On the side of search,
Yes.
what caution would you give our audience and those people who want to buy land?
When you are conducting the search, normally I would say don't send someone to do it for you. Yeah, or maybe if it's maybe somebody who is selling you the land, do it yourself. Don't let the seller do it for you. Let the seller give you the copy of the title deed, the copy of the ID card, and verify it together with his original. You verify the details that the ID card he has given you tallies with his own ID card, and a copy of the KRA PIN. Then you do the search. Once you conduct the search, don't limit yourself to only this search. Also acquire a map from the land registry.
Okay.
To acquire this map, go to the ground with the survey.
All right.
That involves the aspect of the search.
Very correct. We've just mentioned 2, I think 2 of them. We are remaining like around 7.
Yes.
God willing, we need to come back to this topic next week, God willing, to continue with the same, because I'm informed that the conference is on and we want to take you live there. We want to appreciate for your time, short time we had with the Mid-Morning Park Legal Tuesday. God will, next week we shall be digging deep on this topic on the process of acquiring land. On behalf of my guest, Lilian Nekesa, who is an advocate of the High Court, I want to thank you so much for coming. My name is Paul Kagi. See you then.